Good morning once again, book lovers of the internet. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because for every subscriber, I get a new subscriber and I also read a page from a book of my choice. In this video, I am going to be reviewing the second book I finished reading in 2025, which is Shiver by Junji Ito. This one is a short story collection by the so called Master of Horror. Um, Second manga of the year as well, second book review of the year. I rated this one 3.5 out of 5 stars because that is what it averaged out to. And this one has about 400 pages. So honestly, I think of Junji Ito as a person who has some phenomenal ideas, but they all seem to follow the same pattern, which is basically introduce the idea and escalate from there until it's completely terrifying. And I wouldn't say that any of these stories were particularly memorable, say for the Grease one, which was the very last one, I believe, since it was so disgusting. But they certainly have plenty of entertainment value, and some did send shivers down my spine. I mean, at this time of year, half of January is over, exam period is coming up. It is a great time to read some Ito since Christmas is over and cold weather is taking over. So, for some reason, body horror starts to hit the mark more than it does during the summer months, for example. So, there isn't much of a reason to feel cozy anymore. And there are some stories which I think I would have survived. I mean, some of the stories um, are meant to imply that everybody dies eventually, that there is no hope um, of escape, that you're completely screwed. Your family will die in front of your very eyes. There's no point in living anymore. Complete despair. And for instance, there is the one with the floating heads, which is basically a story which has to do with these massive balloons with the faces of people living in the town. And they all have nooses hanging from them. The balloons look for the people with the face, which they are they have the face of as well, and try to hang all the people in the town. That is basically the idea. In that case, I probably would have just cut the noose off, so the blimp would have no way of killing me, and I wouldn't be impacted either through damaging my own head, because that is another thing. If you try to destroy the balloons, the same thing will happen to your own head, and you'll die anyway. But I don't see any harm in just cutting the noose off, to be honest. And there is also no need to fear the other blimps, since they are only after the people which resemble them, so there is only one head balloon that is attached to you and wishes to eliminate you. So once you get rid of the noose from there, then you will probably survive, and everybody should do the same thing. Then there is also The Long Dream, which is basically a story where a person goes to sleep and his dreams get longer every single time until his memory is completely shattered and he's not the same anymore. Um, which that one I found to be quite memorable, and it was rather interesting. There's also a mad scientist involved, so pretty cool stuff. And then there's also Marionette Mansion, um, which was also an interesting concept but cut way too short. And for instance, Marionette Mansion, right? It's about this guy who is very good with puppets. He hires um, people to work from um, the roof basically to completely control his body. So essentially, none of his body is his anymore. But he isn't paralyzed or anything, so he just loves the feeling of floating all day long, which is pretty terrible and indicative of mental illness, I would say. And he ropes his entire family into it as well. Um, and there's also an evil puppet who ends up killing many of the characters. Memorable, but as I mentioned, cut way too short. I was also not expecting Tomie to make an appearance in this collection, but it was lovely to be reminded of the time I read all about her for the very first time so many years ago. I was completely horrified when I read Tomie for the very first time. I couldn't really sleep properly at night. But this time I didn't really care as much as I did back then. It was the first Junji Ito work I consumed, and it was lovely to be reminded of Tomei and what a manipulative character she is. She takes gaslighting to the next level. I also appreciated how there are some notes and sketches by the author after every short story, and I enjoyed how his ideas developed into the stories which were ultimately published. There are some very, very clear differences between the notes he took and what he actually drew to be published, and that was interesting to see his thought process in action. And it's also rather insane to think that the author has been, and the artist, he has been doing this for close to 40 years now. And to be quite honest, I don't really hold him in too high of an esteem. Not because he's horrible or anything, because he is clearly a very talented artist and writer, but he does entertain and freak me out as well, but his stories aren't particularly interesting, and I wouldn't think of them as ones which stand out, especially considering how much manga I've already read and how I'm dead inside, so there's nothing which will frighten me much anymore. They have some very, very good shock value and entertainment value, but it's not something to think about for a long time. It's something that you enjoy in the moment and then it's over and you move on from there, basically. Um, I have several of these collections left to read, but I think I'll take a bit of a break from Ito for now. I mean, I've reviewed Junji Ito's books multiple times on this channel already. His manga volumes, I mean, for instance, Remina, I believe I reviewed. Then there was another short story collection by the same author, which I reviewed as well. You should probably take a look at those. Um, but yeah, too much of Junji Ito might make me appreciate him less, and I do not wish for that to happen. So anyway, that is all I had to say about um, Junji Ito's Shiver short story collection. Um, so if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Take a look at the rest of my videos, shorts and live streams, because why not? They are absolutely amazing. Um, I need to emphasize this because it really does help if you leave a like, so please make sure to do so. Um, Greatly appreciated if I could get this video to, let's say, 15 likes. Um, but yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one, hopefully, very, very soon. Bye, guys.